Hello and welcome to this recording. I'm George. I'm a project consultant at Grad Consult, and in this recording, we're going to be talking all about growth mindset and resilience. So hopefully what you take away from this session is an appreciation of why growth mindset and resilience are so important. But the main topics we're going to discuss is mindset theory, also going to help you understand your own mindset and how it impacts your behavior and the results that you get. Of course, we're going to be sharing some tips and tactics to help you improve your mindset, maybe move towards more of a positive mindset. We're then going to talk about a massive thing, really, which is self-talk and self-limiting beliefs. This is crucial when it comes to mindset. And lastly, we're going to talk about grit and resilience. So first up, what does mindset mean? What is mindset? And we have a definition here from a key researcher in the field, which we'll see more about in following slides. But mindset could be defined as a mental attitude that determines how you interpret and respond to situations. Now, whilst I'm talking just in the beginning of this recording, you're probably having a little bit of a reflection on your own mindset and what you think your mindset is. But we'll go through it throughout this recording, and hopefully you can see the content and see how it relates to you or how it doesn't relate to you. So just bear that in mind as we're moving forward. So as I mentioned, we've got the key researcher, which is Carol Dweck, in mindset theory, and who actually created mindset theory. And it came from a study based on school-aged children. So these children were given a puzzle, and once they were completed, they were then asked if they wanted to do the same puzzle again. So once they've completed it, they want to redo it, have another go at it, or if they wanted to try a harder puzzle, completely different and more difficult puzzle. So the researcher found out that those in the different groups, in the two different groups, those who wanted validation and praise for what they had already achieved didn't want to try the harder puzzle, because just in case they failed, they didn't want that experience, they didn't want that feeling. Then there was the other group who actually wanted to push themselves, the other group of children who did want to try the harder puzzle. They did want to push themselves, and they did want to see and have a go at something that was more difficult, which leads on to the different types of mindset that Carol Dweck has spoken about in her research. So you might say that the children who were just happy with the praise and the validation of what they've already done didn't want to try something more difficult. They were happy with where they were at, and they were happy to keep doing that. You could say that they probably fall into the fixed mindset category. Now, the first bullet point there on the fixed mindset section is I'm either good at it or I'm not. So if you can imagine these kids, they've had a go at the puzzle, they've found out they're good at it, they've got it right. That's all they want to know. They don't want to see if they can potentially learn something. They're just happy with doing what they had to do and having a positive outcome from that. Now, this isn't a criticism of those kids, and you can probably think about many people that have this mindset, and there's nothing wrong with that, strictly speaking. It just means that it's probably going to be more difficult to grow, more difficult to improve. Other things that you might find with a fixed mindset is that you don't like to be challenged. And again, that comes from the fear of failure. Something that group, the children who didn't want to try the harder puzzle, were probably falling foul of. They didn't want to be challenged, so they stuck to what they knew, what they already completed. And that can lead to, when I fail, I'm no good. Again, it's not only the fear of rejection, but it's the internalization of rejection. We make it seem like, we're no good if we don't do something correctly. So again, that limits chances for growth. Again, they like to praise their achievement. They like a validation for what they've already done. That makes them feel good. If other people succeed, then people in a fixed mindset category feel threatened. And you might see this a lot when you maybe talk about your own success, and then other people maybe aren't as impressed because they might be threatened by it. It could even be that maybe when you hear about other people's success, it might not be as impressive to you. And it's important that you reflect on that and you true to yourself and why you feel that way. Again, there's no criticism here. It's just to be mindful of your mindset and maybe why you're thinking the way that you do. And the last one is that my abilities determine everything. So you get the idea of it being fixed, that this is what I have, this is what I am, and this is what I'm going to do. It doesn't seem to be much room for growth. However, on the other side, on the opposite point in terms of the mindset, you have growth mindset. And this would relate to the children. Again, this is just from that study, but you can probably apply it to a wider context and to people you know. They think, people in a growth mindset think that they can learn anything they want to, or at least give themselves the chance to do that. And that comes into the next point. They want to challenge themselves. They want to give it a go. The kids who are in that study wanted to try the harder puzzle. Again, it will come down to they'll get validation, they'll get the praise if they do complete it. But of course, they still wanted to challenge themselves. So you want to see how far they could go. And they view failure slightly different to those in the fixed mindset. When someone fails, it's an opportunity to learn. And that's all it is. Efforts are praised regardless of how they perform. It's not about achieving success to actually be proud of yourself or to praise your own efforts. If someone else achieves, then it's not a negative reflection of themselves. They are happy for those who succeed, and it actually inspires them. And that's a crucial difference there. It's not a threat if someone else succeeds. It's inspiration. I could be like that. I could get there, or I could draw certain things from what they're doing and apply it to myself, and that will help me achieve. So there is an element of comparison, but it's more of a positive way. It's more of a way to say, like, okay, that's great. I can see that it can be done, so I'm going to give it a go, and who knows what might happen. Those in a fixed mindset maybe think, no, that's definitely not for me. And then it comes down to how can they achieve, and it's all about the effort and attitude rather than abilities. Abilities, people seem to think that they're more fixed, but effort and attitude can change. And if you focus your efforts onto those things, then you will see positive improvements. Now, from what we've said here, this relates to the statement on this slide here. And I just want you to have a think about it. Bear in mind what we've just spoke about. So you've got musical talent here. So the suggestion is that musical talent can be learnt by anyone. Bear in mind what we've previously discussed and have a think about what you think the answer is to that question, and then we'll discuss that more as slides go on. So when we are presented with an opportunity, our mind goes through this cycle here. So starts with the thought process. We might have certain emotions attached around to it, such as, or what could happen here, or what could go wrong. And you might start picturing yourself achieving this thing, or you might start picturing yourself failing. And that leads on to the belief that you have about this thing. And then, as we all know, beliefs shape behavior. And it goes without saying, your behavior is going to lead to an outcome. It's going to lead to a result. So you might find that there's opportunities to get involved in something, but we don't put ourselves forward if we have maybe the negative emotion. If you look at this from maybe a fixed mindset point of view, nothing's going to change unless we disrupt this cycle. All of our thought processes are going to be the same next time if we perceive something as a negative, as what could go wrong each time. For example, back to the musical talent, however you feel about musical talent, that's down to you. But if you feel like musical talent cannot be learned by anyone, you have to have a gift, then you're definitely not going to give it a go. You've basically ruled yourself out. So if you look at this cycle, the first thought is our musical talent. Your emotion is, I definitely couldn't do that. It's not for me. That's your belief. So you're then going to say, I'm not going to give it a go. And then there'll be no behavior in terms of learning musical talent, which means you're not going to learn music, basically. So hopefully you can see how just the way that we speak to ourselves, just the emotions that we experience really impact our behavior and what we achieve. So how do we then disrupt this cycle of self-talk, this negative cycle. So the first point here is to be aware of the negative thoughts that are derailing your efforts. This is a difficult thing to do because sometimes they're automatic and they're strong as well. They're not like just little thoughts. They sometimes can take over. It can be the only thing you're thinking about. So you want to try and practice positive thinking. This is not to say that you're always going to have happy, joyous, and positive thoughts. Of course, there will always be those elements of negative thoughts, but definitely make a conscious effort, deliberately practice having positive thoughts about what could go right, what could I achieve. That's not to put pressure on yourself, but that's just to give you an opportunity to see what you can achieve, rather than talking yourself out of things all of the time. The next up is how you actually talk to yourself. So listen how you actually talk to yourself when something goes wrong. Pay attention to the words you're saying. Pay attention to the way you are talking to yourself. Is it aggressive? Is it derogatory? So when things go wrong, it can be easy just to we look to blame people immediately, and we can definitely put a lot of blame on ourselves. Of course, we want to take responsibility, but sometimes it's too much of a hindrance and it won't allow us to do anything in the future. So just bear in mind, what is it you're saying to yourself when things go wrong? What sort of path do you go down? What are sort of words that you're saying? And then just bear that in mind. You might say things that sound permanent, and we've discussed permanent statements really already in terms of I will never be good at this, or music talent can't be learned by anyone, so it's not for me. These are things that just says that it cannot be improved, and that's that. So be mindful if you're using those sorts of terminology, those sorts of language, because it really can be difficult to get out of that place, of that rut. And try and correct those things that you're saying. It's not about being perfect in terms of there is a correct way, so to say, but it's just thinking about what you're saying to yourself and being critical of it. Is that actually true? If you fail, are you the worst person ever? No, that's not true. But it's not about saying that you're always going to be doing positive things, doing good things, and any negative thought should not be listened to or tolerated. But it's just about being more mindful, correcting these permanent statements that probably aren't true. So just bear that in mind, and next time something comes up where you fail and you start to speak to yourself in a certain way, just bear this in mind when that next comes up. Now, you might be thinking, what is the purpose of all of these things and how does it relate to my job search, my graduate job search? Well, here is the CEO of Microsoft, and here is what he has to say about resilience and mindset. So we need to be willing to lean into uncertainty. So we need to be willing to lean into uncertainty. Take risks and move quickly when we make mistakes. Recognizing failure happens along the way to mastery. And that just shows you the importance of mindset and in terms of the terminology that we use. Embrace failure. It's going to happen, but the way you react to it is what counts. Employers do want this. They do see this as a skill. Resilience is a massive thing, and it's something that employers say graduates typically lack. So it's really important for you to demonstrate your resilience, and not only will it help you in your job search, but it will just help you in your personal life as well. So in terms of how you can actually apply growth mindset to the job search, bear in mind that the biggest part of the job search is job applications. And you might think, if you've got the fixed mindset, you might think making job applications, you can do it or you can't. That's it, it's fixed. But just think about your first application probably isn't going to be your best application. And there's nothing to worry about there. It can improve, it can develop. So give yourself a chance to learn from your rejections and see how you can improve the next time. Next one is that a positive mental attitude must be balanced with effort. Of course, you can't just be thinking that it's all gonna go your way and everything's going to be great. You do need to match it with the effort. You do need to put the work in so that you do get the results that you want. The next one is a key one, and sometimes this happens in terms of we look at job descriptions and we see the skills on there and we might rule ourselves out and say, I don't have a few of those skills, so clearly I'm not right for the job. And that's okay, because if you look at those skills and you think, okay, it's not right for me, it may redirect you to something that's a better fit. Or you can look at those skills and say, okay, this is a job that I'm interested in. This is an area that I'm interested in. How can I gain those skills? So maybe if you're early on in your university career, you might want to gain a bit of experience or try and develop those skills through work experience or just even through what you're doing in your education, just trying to improve those sorts of skills. And even if you're in your final years, you can still think about how you can gain those skills or how you can maybe demonstrate them in your application. You don't have to have it completely, but you can either show a desire to improve that skill, or you can draw from a few examples that might relate to that skill. So think about how you could actually learn about those skills. And then if you do your research on an employer, you'll be able to demonstrate your emotional intelligence. So that is you understanding your own emotions and the emotions of others as well. If you're looking to continuously improve, then you will ultimately achieve. If you're looking to constantly grow, you will get positive outcomes. And the key thing here is that you only need one role. You only need that one job. Rejections are simply part of that process. You could apply for a job and then get the first job that you like. And it might be that you might have missed out on other opportunities. Who knows? Who knows where the line is drawn? But just accept rejections as part of the process. It's not always a reflection of you. There's certain factors that you can't control. So just embrace it as part of the process. So back onto self-talk, how can we actually control or at least manage our self-talk? Because it's not always easy. So we've got a few statements here, and you might find that you align with some of these statements. So some of these relate to you more than others. So the first is that I've not done that before. I can't do it. I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm no good at a certain skill. It won't work anyway, and I have to, and I need to do something to get to that point. And I'll give you an example. For me, I used to think, so if we look at the point where it says I'm no good at, I used to think I'm no good at presenting. I cannot do presentations. I cannot speak in front of people. There's no way I could do that. And this happened, this is my mindset in terms of when I probably started university. Now, presenting is the biggest part of my job, and it's actually my favorite part of the job as well. So this is why I'm a massive advocate for growth mindset and resilience, because I've experienced the benefits. And I now do think about this. I now do the positive self-talk. So I will make it work better this time. I'll try and apply the improvements. I can do it if I plan it out, if I do a little bit of research and take my time, I can deliver a good presentation. And I can rely on colleagues as well for support if I need that. And this contributes towards a bigger goal. I want to continue to improve so I can continue to deliver sessions. And I choose to as well. So rather than making it seem like it's a massive challenge, I choose to be able to do these things and I choose to gain those skills. So it's just a simple transition in terms of the way you speak to yourself, but I've experienced that. I know the power of growth mindset and resilience, and that's why I want you guys to understand the power of growth mindset and resilience as well. So again, our self-talk can lead into beliefs, and you saw that on the cycle. There's a few thoughts here that could be your beliefs, and they might follow you as you move forward in your career as well. And as I said earlier, it's not about saying they're never going to happen to me. If I adopt the growth mindset, I'm never going to have a negative thought, because you will. But it's all about how you manage those things. They're always going to enter your mind, but how do you manage it and how do you react? There's one here that might haunt you or might come along with you as you go on for your career. I won't get promoted. Now, if you're in that fixed mindset, then you probably will never get promoted if you count yourself out all the time. If you have more of a growth mindset and you try to get promotion and you might experience a rejection, again, do the things that we've spoke about, that we've seen in this presentation in terms of the growth mindset. the failure is an opportunity to learn. What's important here is that we don't count ourselves out just because we believe the negative things that we say to ourselves. There's no, even though it is a defense mechanism to count ourselves out, there's no point not allowing yourself a chance to grow. We might try to protect ourselves and be like, okay, I'm going to reject myself before somebody else rejects me. But that means that you're definitely not going to grow. You're missing out on what you can achieve, and it's unnecessary to do that. So make sure you give yourself a chance. It's all about being mindful of the statements that come into your head. Again, I've said a few times now, you will not be able to dismiss them all the time forever. They will still come into your mind. But what can you do? How do you react? You might be looking at a few here, and you probably will experience these beyond this recording and in your future life. You will experience these thoughts. So what do we do when we say things like, I'm not good at that, it won't work, this is too hard? Or you think about the last time you failed, it didn't work, so it's definitely not going to work this time. What can we say? When you approach new things, you think, it's a great opportunity. I can get better with practice. I choose to do this thing. It may take time, but I'll get round to it. I will be able to do it. What else can I try to do? So simple sentences that can be transitioned into positive ways of thinking. It's all about being aware of those thoughts and then managing them. Now, we spoke about all the positive aspects of growth mindset and why it's so great and how it could help you. But there's a few things to bear in mind about the growth mindset. Hopefully, I've helped you to understand that it's not about being perfect. It's just about giving yourself a chance. So the first thing is that the growth mindset is not in every situation having a can-do attitude, no matter what. Always taking on things, always saying yes to things. Of course, there will be some things that you won't want to do. You won't want to try and improve it, and that's okay. We haven't got unlimited energy. We haven't got unlimited cognitive resources. There's going to be some things that we just don't want to devote our time to. There's absolutely not a problem with that. The problem is when you put yourself out of the running of something that you actually want to do, and that's the difference. It's not about taking on anything that's to do just because you've got a growth mindset and you must accept all new challenges. It's trying to stop you from putting yourself out the running when there's something that you want to achieve and you know would be good for you. That's the point here. The next point is that there are positives to fixed mindset thinking as well. So I've alluded to that in the first point. Some things that help us stay kind of where we are and we want to just hold on to what we've got and take the praise and take the validation. There's nothing strictly wrong with that, as I said at the beginning of this recording. But again, it might limit the chances to grow, but it's not all bad, and it's down to you to decide what fits for you. And again, sometimes we don't necessarily fit into either one or we just have elements of either. But I want you to draw from what you can from this mindset and edge towards a growth mindset because it would give you the opportunities to grow, of course. With businesses, it's sometimes just about growth and profit as well. So it's not always about opportunities to learn and be better. Sometimes, actually, the way business goes, that's just the way it is, and things are out of your control. So don't worry too much about that. Don't worry, again, about being perfect. So that's the key point to take home here. So now we're going to move on to resilience and what you think resilience means, and when it comes to your mind, what does resilience mean to you, and do you see it in others and things like that. So the way we would define resilience is that it's simply the ability to adapt when faced with difficulty, trauma, and tragedy. Hopefully you can see how this relates to growth mindset and the fixed mindset as well. If you're someone that maybe has a bad situation or a rejection in an application, or so to speak, and it's a negative reaction, it falls into I can't do that, it's not for me, I don't have that skill, then you can see how that relates to fixed mindset. You can see how that's less resilience relates to fixed mindset. Or it could be that you embrace that rejections are a part of life and difficulties are a part of life. That falls into more of the growth mindset category. So hopefully you can see how resilience is a big part of our lives, not only in searching for roles, but also in our day-to-day life. So people also think that if you separate resilience and mindset for 1 second, that you either have resilience or you don't. Of course, that relates to the mindset, but resilience is something that can be improved. Again, it's all about how you have your perception on life and how you react to situations and how you experience them. If someone's had maybe less failures, they might be less resilient when something bad happens. Because they've not experienced it so much, they might be less resilient and less able to bounce back. Someone who's had a few rejections and embraces that might be able to bounce back in a better way. So here are some top tips for developing your resilience. The first one is probably a bit of a difficult one, but once you harness it and once you embrace it, it will help. And that is to have meaningful conversations with people. Or, more importantly, reflect on your own experiences and consider what tools and technique you use to overcome adversity. And then share this with others. Again, if you reflect from yourself and you share it with others, hopefully that'll encourage others to reflect on their own experiences and share that with you. And you could talk about methods, and that really does help. There's also a lot of talk about how the importance of communicating with others. So that is the top tip here. Learn to be reflective with people. Learn to want to understand how other people and how they deal with things. And you will have these meaningful conversations and your resilience will develop. It also relates to taking feedback from other people as well. So sometimes we can be a bit defensive when people give us feedback. But if you have it in your mind that people genuinely want the best for you, not always, but most of the time, people want the best for you, and that's why they're giving you their feedback. So you don't have to always take in the feedback and believe every word they say, but just bear it in mind and bear that in mind when people are giving you feedback. Next one is about building a positive self-image. Now, this isn't about being arrogant and loving yourself and if you're kind to yourself, then it's a sign of arrogance. It's not about that at all. It's about avoiding these negative self-talks, taking down your self-esteem unnecessarily so. It's all about nurturing a positive view of yourself and doing what you can, doing whatever you need to do to have that positive self-image. It's down to you at the end of the day. Only you are in control of your self-esteem. So don't have to worry about other people and what they say. Another thing is that the way we speak to ourselves is probably not the way we speak to others as well. So bear that in mind the next time that you're being critical of yourself or you're having these negative self-thoughts. And the last one is the power of purpose. So there's lots of evidence for how strong having your purpose is. And if you don't have it right now, that's not a problem. But try and work towards what it is you want and what your purpose is. What are you passionate about? Try things to figure that out as well. You don't have to know it right now, but make sure you're on that path to trying to figure out what is right for you, what do you like doing, and what motivates you day to day. So remember, start with the self-awareness. Look at your limiting beliefs. Consider where they came from and challenge them. It's not about correcting them all the time, but challenge them, be critical of them. Then try to develop your new behaviors through deliberate practice. Then embrace the fact that risk and failure are a part of life. They're unavoidable. And this will help you to improve your mindset, to help you build your resilience. And we've got a quote here from Barack Obama here. So it says, don't let your failures define you. You have to let your failures teach you. And that is the key point here. Failures are an opportunity to grow. That's all they are. Okay, that's it for this recording. Thank you for watching, and I wish you the best of luck with your future applications.